Welcome to Lost Without Japan, a travel podcast about the life-changing experiences of exploring Japan and those moments we would be lost without. For your listening pleasure, allow me to introduce your very own Kanko Guido, Michael.
Welcome to a special Lost Without Moments bonus interview episode of the Lost Without Japan podcast. Our bi-weekly podcast is focused on getting you to Japan for your first visit or making that next adventure to Japan even better than your last. Today's special interview episode is with returning guest, John Rucynski, and this is your director of travel for TKIC Studio Productions, coming to you with positive thoughts and excitement for your next journey to Japan and his own return once more, probably summer 2027 is at this docket right now. John, saving for my daughter and I to come with. Thank you all for giving me a bit of your time today, and I truly hope the podcast finds you in a good place or on the path to a better one. No matter how it may seem at this moment, my belief is that we could all use a beacon like this one in our lives to help guide us during these times, and I hope that Japan, along with this show, will become that for you. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. And if you're returning Lost Without listener, thank you again for giving me a bit more of your time. So thank you. But for today's show, let me introduce John, who was last on our show. I was checking back for our episode. It was season 2, episode 7, back in November of 2022. And he's gracious enough to join us again. John is so many things for me. The biggest of those is that he has successfully lived in Japan and worked in Japan for some time. If you want to, like for others like myself, you can see just how rewarding a lot of hard work on his part and openness to move halfway around the world can end up impacting your life for the positive. And John, I don't know how you gave up Illinois with these wonderful temperatures we have right now, but that's a conversation for last time or next time or this time. But John is deeply involved in teaching English, textbooks that he is creating, university teachings. Sometimes I think if you say that someone is teaching English in Japan, that would be selling John incredibly short with what a lot of people might consider that to be. He's editing books, finding time to cycle, hike, root for the Hanshin Tigers. So today's interview will give us a chance to catch up, talk about his recent textbook he created, and discuss what has led him to be as successful as he has, living long term in Japan. Even after the Hanshin Tigers won the championship in 2023. And I think when we talked, that might have been like, you're supposed to go back home or something like that.
Yeah.
So welcome back, John. So, thanks for putting up with that long intro.
Oh, no, I could listen to that all day. It makes my life seem a lot more exciting than it is. So thanks again. It's great to be back. And yeah, I was a bit shocked myself reading that whole intro that it has been about 3 years since we last talked, and some shocking baseball events in that time, which I'm sure we'll get into today. And it was also wonderful, funny story to meet you in person over the past 3 years, which was, if I could share quickly, just a funny story that, I just knew your face from the podcast last time. And then our mutual friend, Trevor Rachida, who had come up with Hanshin Tiger's English News, organized a get together, but huge, a group of about 15 or 16 of us. So it was hard to talk to everyone, but half the night I'm like, why do I know that voice? And because I didn't get introduced to everyone. And then finally we looked at each other and we both, yeah, I know your voice too. And we worked it out that we were standing next to someone that we had spent a great hour or so on the podcast with 3 years ago. So that was wonderful.
And I was joking, John, that Sam and I, after we left and Hanshin ended up winning, we took full credit for that. That's because we were there.
Of course.
But before we get too much deeper in today's episode, listeners have questions about your textbooks. English things, sumo knowledge, whatever it is that they have if they want to reach back out to you. What would be your socials that they could do so to get a hold of you, John?
Okay, probably just, Instagram would be the easiest one. Of course, full disclosure, I'm not incredibly social media savvy, but it is there. The pictures are nice. There's no, fancy stories or videos, but, yeah, just with my name, John Rucynski, I think my nickname there is Global Hiker, and then I also have a separate account just called A Passion for Japan, which was named after my edited book, which of personal narratives, which we talked about 3 years ago, and Facebook as well. So those would be the main ones if people want to reach out and talk more.
Excellent, John. And I'm going to link our episode back, even though it was 3 years ago. We did spend a lot of time, kind of like on your background, that from Wisconsin to Illinois to Japan, back and forth. But if anyone is not going to make that trek back through the catalog, could you give a little bit of a introduction about yourself?
Yeah. So just very, you mentioned Wisconsin, and that's a part of like 15 parts of the story, but originally from upstate New York, idyllic little town called Oswego, right up on Lake Ontario. And then I am an Army brat, so my childhood and up through high school was Oswego down to Pennsylvania, down to Georgia, over to Texas, back to Georgia, up to Wisconsin for the last year of high school. And then back to my hometown of Oswego to do undergrad at SUNY Oswego, State University of New York at Oswego. Then yeah, a few years in Japan, back to grad school at the School for International Training in Brattleboro, Vermont. Another sidetrack, a couple years down in New Zealand, which was also amazing. And then since 2004, back here, living close to my Hanshin Tigers, where again, we joked that I was supposed to leave when they finally won, and which I thought was safe. It looked, it seemed like it was never going to happen, just like for
Yeah.
fans of your Cubs and my Red
Yeah.
Sox, and it eventually happens. So
It was good times had, but they had a run at it this year too. That's a whole 'nother story for another day. But I was following along as best I could on this side, so things are looking a little bit better, to say the least, at least for the team and kind of expectations and things like that.
yeah, we'll be competitive for which again seemed when I first got into the Tigers, they had just finished several straight years, in the basement, and they're kind of the dark years of the '90s. So it feels a little strange, that they're a perennial contender, but I'll take it.
And John, I know we are here today to kind of talk about your recent textbook, the effort that went into that, and your work life, different things of being in Japan. We have so much that we could get into, but could you give just a little bit of discussion on life as an associate professor, in Japan, some of your challenges, rewards, just the daily life of what's that looks like, and somehow how you're able to follow that up with your textbook creation, and things on top of that.
Yeah, so past 15 years, I've been teaching as an associate professor, teaching English and content-based courses at Okayama University, and I hope more people recognize that name. Even in Japan, I sometimes come across people that don't know Okayama, but right there in the middle of Kobe and Hiroshima. So great part of Japan, which is called the Chugoku region. So not to be confused with also meaning China. Just I do try to have a great balance of teaching and research and writing. And most of my classes are, say, yeah, traditional English. English is a foreign language classes, and but I also do teach several content-based courses, more targeted to international students. And yeah, another thing that could come up today is think after we talked last, my edited book, A Passion for Japan, I have now turned into a class as well. And I'll actually be starting, we're on the quarter system here. So we have our fourth term starting tomorrow, and I'll have 32 fresh young faces taking my A Passion, which the class I called A Passion for Japan, living, working, and thriving in Japan, which again, the last word is the real hope there. But mix of both Japanese and international students, because some of the Japanese students as well are searching for where they belong. If Japan is their home or whether they're going to head elsewhere for their working career. And yeah, so that's my life.
John, I know we talked about that, and I've linked your book in our show notes too, for Amazon and things like that. It is well worth your time for readings. And I know we discussed about that, but what I liked about it wasn't just glorifying Japan, had a wide variety of stories, and you could truly I ended up kind of reading it in bits, I feel like, in order just because I felt like it flowed so well, like story from story. But you could truly just sit and flip to anything in any order and get a lot out of that. It really is well worth your time, and it could be a post-holiday gift to someone. So
Yeah.
if you flopped in your gift giving, please, look the link and try to make it up,
Yeah.
especially if
And
they're into Japan.
it's not too late for the holidays.
That's right.
And
That's right.
yeah, thanks for those kind words. And I do, it definitely is. It is a edited volume, so you can go to any chapter at random. But I do hope people read it all the way through, because it's often the things you don't know about that end up being more
Mhm.
intriguing. And there were a lot of topics I don't really know about or not very passionate about, but just seeing how that helped the person, feel at home in Japan, make it home, just like things like baseball and hiking and cycling did for me. I think they're all worthwhile, or at least I hope so.
Could not agree more. And today, kind of, we follow each other on our Instagrams, and I think both of us at times share that common. We're active, not as much as others. I've been trying to be more. That's been kind of a goal. Just increase interactions, things with listeners and stuff. But I did see through your postings and things like that you had a textbook that you had ended up creating for that learning of English, and its title being working in Japan, further explorations. And what can you go ahead and tell us about that? Because I've seen you've been at some conferences, going to conferences, like doing all sorts of things with that.
Definitely. Yeah. And this is our textbook, which, again, with Japan, with the school year starting in April, it'll be available from April 2026. It is a textbook for English language courses at the university level in Japan. Just going back, so this is hence the name Further Explorations. It is a second volume we published the first book in 2015 called Working in Japan, Video Interviews with 14 Professionals, and the new book, as you just mentioned, Working in Japan, Further Exploration. So same approach, but 14 completely new people, 14 widely different careers, people from all over the world, and then a new co-author as well. And just before I forget it, if I mistakenly call this my project or use I should say, you know,
We
before I forget, I was part of an incredible team. So Tsuyoshi Yoshida from National Geographic Learning, who came up with the original concept for the first book, which was a great innovative idea that we've kept going. And my new co-author, Phoebe Amoroso, who's a multi-talented British journalist based in Tokyo, and also worth following on Instagram, doing all kinds of interesting writing and video work. So, yeah, very intriguing person. She replaced, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Alice Gordenker, but she's an American journalist based in Tokyo who I did the first textbook with, as well as another series of books called Surprising Japan. But again, this time our wonderful team, Tsuyoshi Yoshida from National Geographic Learning, and Phoebe Amoroso was my co-author. She's the one you will see in the book, fortunately, not me. She's doing all the interviews with the people. So yeah, very important role that she played.
I did enjoy looking through a previous book when we had you on before. You found kind of a different collection of people to bring into that textbook, than one of which, we'll talk about here in a moment. But how did you find and decide who to include, in your textbook for this?
Yeah, so it was just a mix of different so Phoebe with her journalism background has just knows all kinds of amazing, talented, interesting people across Japan and the world. So she recruited some people that I knew of, either knew a bit personally or just seen them, on social media and thought they had an important story to tell. So yeah, just a team effort of finding these interesting people and making. Also wanted to mix things up from the first book. Get people from countries we weren't able to feature or regions we weren't able to feature in the first book. So a few are the same. I mean, just the countries, but most of the careers and most of the nationalities represented are completely new. So yeah, very inspiring. Similar to my A Passion for Japan book. Just once you start digging, you just find there's these amazing, inspiring people here in Japan and doing very interesting things. So it was wonderful to be able to tell their story, and especially again, kudos to Phoebe for doing all the pre-interviews and making these scripts that make these interviews accessible for our English language learners.
And one of the ones that jumped out to me, and when you were saying, you're having this for use in a college course, right? Is that kind of making it intriguing, interesting to today's college students. And one of those was about Japanese culture creations, but it had to do with some content creation too, with Priscilla Koshimura and her like being born in Brazil and kind of sharing about Japan, Japanese culture, and things like that. And that, I mean, just in and of itself, not even going into it, to looking to learn English, which I could probably still benefit from, but just that story about her was just something I could very easily see hooking people in your classroom, for sure.
Yeah, thank you. And that just shows, how fast things have changed since 2015 when we had to look at, because the whole idea with the original book was, we'd like to, we want to get a wide range of careers, but also careers that students may actually do. Now, content creator is a dream job of some students, and which was just kind of on the horizon maybe back in 2015. And just to say a little more about Pity, and what I really appreciate about her view and interview is, she mentioned that one of her motivations was when she first looked into doing content creation, that when she Googled like videos about Japan, like a great majority of them were these nonsense, like weird Japan, bizarre Japan videos. And unfortunately, that trend hasn't gone away. There's so much garbage out there that just, I want people to know about Japan, but I also want them to know the reality and both the good and bad. And so I really appreciate what Pity's doing to, because it's an endless battle to just, this garbage doesn't go away. These, either over glorifying or just totally, misrepresenting Japan. So again, I appreciate quality content creators like Pity who are fighting the good fight, shall we say.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much has changed even just within the last year. I feel like, you know what I mean? Just for as far as like AI and its inclusion in content creation, and people going so far as to make changes that, it used to be if somebody photoshopped something, John, like you could tell, you know what I mean? Like if you're kind of scrolling through, you could kind of get an idea that this is something that is
Right.
not
Yeah.
how it is. Now that's not so much the case anymore. And it really, if you weren't familiar with the area or familiar with what it
Exactly.
is, like there's so much more that's out there. It is definitely important that you have people like that out there trying to get that information out there. So I love it. And with all the different people, could you just talk about why you set up your textbook the way you did? Both with like, your people that are there, and then just how your lessons and things go.
Okay, yeah, and just going back to the first book again, the big struggle with there's so many textbooks out there. So the big struggle is again getting this, let's say, interesting theme and intriguing content because at this point the Japanese students, they've got the grammar, they've got the vocabulary, they still can benefit from learning English, but hopefully there's something worth learning. I always thought English classes should be more than just about language learning. You got to learn more. There's content there, and so again, Tsuyoshi Yoshida had this great idea from my publishing rep to just you're always looking for that kind of gap in the market, and surprisingly, I mean, so much of Japanese university, of course, is job hunting, and it's a bridge, of course, just like in most countries, a bridge to your professional life. But there just wasn't a lot of content like that in textbooks where students had the opportunity to discuss their career. And my experience is a lot of, the difference with American college and Japanese college is a big difference is I went undeclared. I didn't know my major when I started, whereas in Japan you have to apply. So students already have their major, but from my experience, a lot of them go in other ways professionally. So it's a good opportunity for them to, see what's out there, see what people are doing. So the first one was just the content of career choices and, goal setting and looking at the future. And the second one I think is the diversity of English. So, when I first started teaching English, there was still this kind of quote unquote, native speaker model. You're trying to replicate the English of people of, say, the US as we did in Japan or the Queen's English, England. But it's just not the reality anymore with English as a lingua franca or a international language. When our Japanese students use English, it could be with a L1 speaker, but it could just as possibly be with someone from Germany or China or Russia. So, and a lot of the students have never been exposed to these different accents. So it was very important so those were kind of our two selling points and two approaches. So the opportunity to learn about and discuss different careers and also be exposed to varieties of English. So that's the main approach. And then again, making that accessible. So again, the designers have done a wonderful job of just saying, you can't overwhelm learners with too much content. So basically each unit has an introduction video of about 90 seconds, just narrating, showing the interviewee's life and how they came to Japan, and then 3 short interviews, just about 6 questions each from Phoebe, and then 6 replies. So covering either some aspect of their career, but also could be one of their side interests as well. So again, giving the students something new, but making it very accessible.
Definitely so, and the, component of being able to hear it as well, because that is I mean, even with living within the US itself, that's different.
Right, right. Mhm.
Being the Boston Red Sox fan and then, heading to Chicago, you're gonna have 2 different, you have 2 different interactions
Yeah.
when it comes to even if you're familiar with it. So that's, like, 100%, give them at least some things for if they're going business or whatever field that they're going to, some, experience and things for it. Love it, love it, love it.
Yeah, and just if I
So
could
go for
just
it.
add to that, just the personal experience of students who, like, study abroad and, they go to Australia, so they've been kind of, prepping for Aussie English or the Australian accent, but more times than not, their homestay family are not native Australians, so they're, with the large immigrant population there, so they're getting this completely different accent from, the good day that they've been maybe prepping for. So, and again, it's a good experience, but they just need more exposure to that for when they go out and bravely use English in the real world.
And John, so it sounded like one of my questions was gonna be like, what led you to kind of creating, the textbooks as far as, like, a career path, within Japan on top of kind of your, teaching at university. Well, I mean, you kind of answered it in some ways. You're filling kind of a void that's not there. But what else would you kind of add to, what led to the creation of this specific version of what you have going to be having coming out in April?
Right. So just how it all really kind of came full circle. So going back, undergrad, I was a English creative writing major, so I was not a education major. So I found a way to kind of bring those two aspects together. So I did get into teaching, but then I always wanted to keep kind of a way to have a creative outlet. Yeah, eventually, our first textbook came out around 2012, I believe, so it did take a long time, and part of that was just my lack of satisfaction with materials, textbooks I was often forced to use as an English teacher, and, like, well, and not to criticize others, I'm sure it worked for the person that created it, but then I just felt like I think, I'm confident I have something new to add to this field, so, And I did get, many rejections along the way. It's a hard field to break into to get your, foot through the door of a publishing textbook. There's a lot of aspiring textbook authors out there. So I was very, very fortunate in 2012 with my co-author Alice Goodenker to get our first textbook published with Shohakusha, small Japanese publisher, and now this is my fourth co-authored textbook. So, yeah, it's been great to keep that going as part of my career, and again to have that creative outlet with something that I truly hope is also benefiting mine and other teachers, learners, and keeping them interested in English and the content as well.
How long would you say that it ended up taking for you to come up, with your textbook for this time around?
The whole writing process, you
Yeah.
mean? Yeah,
Yes.
it's well over a year. Yeah, Phoebe was actually just posting about this when we got the samples of the textbook that I think she said the journey she's been doing for the past year and a half or 2 years. So it's, yeah, because we do the interviews the interviews have to happen first, and again, that's being done by Phoebe and Yoshida-san. They start giving the interview products to me, and then I have to start making material. So Phoebe and I have very, defined roles. She did all the script writing and interviews, and I do the material creation. So just the process of waiting for the interviews, and then also, it's a big challenge because you're trying to make each unit be just different enough. The careers are different, but of course, a lot of the same vocabulary and topics come up, which is good for reinforcement, but also a challenge to make each unit just different enough. And because they're not just talking about their careers, a lot of different topics will come up with Ali Hongo, who's another content creator from Bulgaria, but she does a lot about travels, but a lot talking about sustainability of travels, know, kind of coming up with different topics that students, so they're not just talking about only careers for 90 or 100 minutes every week. Yeah, so that was the whole process of just, yeah, making scaffolding, what we call making the content accessible for learners, but also expandable both for the teacher and student to give them enough material to fill. Again, I have 100-minute classes, but 90 minutes is the norm. So to
Okay.
fill 90 minutes each week with learners of speaking for other teachers, learners, learners of different proficiency and different interests in English as well, so was the challenge and the time frame.
Now that you've created this and you're having it be coming out, how are you going about trying to promote, what
Yeah, so, well, things like this. So thank you. This is the first podcast, so I greatly appreciate the opportunity, and as you mentioned, I have been, doing some, conferences. So, yeah, the JALT conference, Japan Association for Language Teaching in Japan, was, just last month, so that was an opportunity to speak about the book, and then a great little one-day event at, Kindai University in Osaka this past weekend, and so Pechakucha is a wonderful presentation format, 20 by 20, so 20 slides, 20 seconds each. So the 19th this month, I'll be speaking at the Pechakucha event at the Konan Cube University with them. So just a shout out to them. Brent Jones and Robert Palmer are two professors there who have kept this going for, I believe, well over 10 years. And to be part of the Pechakucha International, you're required to have 4 events every year. So just they've done an amazing job of, like 10 plus speakers every time. And they're held at universities, but very much community events. So again, coming full circle, the first Pechakucha presentation I ever gave was, I think, back in 2016, talking about working in Japan, the first book. And now I'll be talking about our sequel this month on the 19th. So,
awesome. That's awesome. Love it all, love it all. John, is there anything more that you'd like to, discuss in regards to your textbook and kind of like what you're looking to do with that, offerings or anything of that way, shape, and form, my friend?
yeah, just as I said, I mean, the main approaches, the main benefits I see are the a chance to discuss different careers and exposure to varieties of English. But I think another big thing, which is, just I don't know how much you've been following the situation in Japan, but just with the bit of the rise of the far right and anti-immigration, and so I really hope that there's so much horrible propaganda out there that students my Japanese students get exposed to. So, I mean, I hope that would be another benefit of the book where they can see these 12 different people from all over the world who are doing, let's say, living in Japan the right way. They really
Yes.
appreciate Japanese culture. They're contributing. They have an important job they're doing. I do hope that's another benefit where I do see them as role models who can hopefully counter some of the propaganda there. And so the reason I said 12, not 14 there is each book we've also featured two Japanese people who are using English. And I hope yeah, kind of a different topic, but, yeah, that didn't come up before because I stressed the diversity, but I think it's wonderful too that, yeah, we have 2 Japanese. Because again, Japanese students might not see other Japanese
Hmm.
using English and what it sounds like and how it helps their career, so we have 2 incredible, people in this book. One is, Shinoharu Taketawa, Tatekawa, who's actually are you familiar with the Rakugo? Okay, so Rakugo is traditional Japanese comedic storytelling. You've probably seen it where
Yes,
they're
yes, 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 yes.
sitting on the cushion and but I think that's great because this is very traditional Japanese, but he had this very interesting upbringing where he went to elementary school in New York, so he really struggled as a returnee in Japan because he you know, if you want to call it quote unquote, got a American side to him, but he, just very traditional, strict, although it's a comedic storytelling, like anything in Japan, it has a lot of traditions and rules. And so he really, as he mentioned, he did, clash a lot with his sensei, kind of wanting to do things his own way. But, great success story. I've seen him perform. He does Rakugo both in English and Japanese. So I think it's great to have an example of a Japanese person doing something very traditional, but also doing it in English and sharing it with the world. And the other person, Keiko Kuakino, who is a head chef based in Niigata Prefecture. So most of the people, because of budget and things like that, are based in Tokyo. So I think it's wonderful. My team, without me, unfortunately, but my team traveled up to Niigata to visit Keiko's. She cooks in a hotel there, Michelin-starred chef, and a wonderful unit because she really focuses on the local ingredients, local recipes. So again, this idea of preserving local culture. So two great examples of how to do that as Japan is internationalizing more and more.
Love it, my friend. We've talked about it before, but I know that you are an avid cycler, baseball, sumo, all those different things, kind of being out in nature, like you said, like you're being indoors so much, wanting to be out, as much as you can when you're not. But any walking, cycling adventures that you might want to, share about, as of recent or just anything since we last talked?
Yeah, I mean, one new thing, and there's a caveat there, which I'll get to in a moment, but yeah, I aim to reach all 47 prefectures in Japan, and I just have a few left to check off. And so this summer, I finally got up to Iwate Prefecture in Tohoku, which is I discovered very quickly is a very underappreciated prefecture, as is the whole region of Tohoku, probably the least visited region of Japan. So that I did some wonderful day hikes up there, and I'd been meaning for several years to. There's a long distance trail called the Michinoku Trail, which stretches from Fukushima Prefecture all the way up to the top of Aomori Prefecture. And the full trail is, I believe, over well, I think it started as 600 or 700 kilometers, but could be stretching up to 1,000. So I finally got out, unfortunately, just for a day hike on that, but that was a wonderful 1 day stretch. Yeah, people should really check out. Robin Lewis is people might know his name from My Mizu, this great app he created to cut down
Yes.
on single, plastic bottle uses in
Yes.
Japan. But his mother is also from the Tohoku region, so he's through hiked the Michinoku Trail twice, I believe, and it has just created a great website with resources and written about it for All About Japan, which is a website I also write for. Yeah, I think the real issue now is they're really trying to get, foreign tourists out of the typical routes. Yeah, Tohoku Iwate would definitely be recommended. Again, the caveat there is you've probably followed the scarily increasing number of bear sightings and attacks in Japan. That
Yes,
is
yes.
it is one of the regions where you do. I mean, I don't think twice about it where I am yet in the Kansai region, around Kobe, but definitely Tohoku and Hokkaido is the place to be most prepared and concerned.
No. We it's definitely, like, you see signs as you're going around, it's, it's different, something to definitely be aware of when you're getting out into other areas that you have, and I know when we were able to meet actually in person, not planned, but otherwise, at the Hanshin Tigers game, baseball is a part of, your adventuring as well, and I hope, once I'm, in Hiroshima and calling that, home, I'm definitely gonna have to have you out to catch some, a baseball game together then. How many games were you able to make it out to last year?
So this is sad and shocking, but the I don't know if you follow this, but Hanshin Tigers tickets have become a just very, very hot ticket. And they were always popular, but they're kind of rare in that they put their tickets on sale all on the same day for the whole season. And so it had often been the case in recent years where, you know, weekend games for the whole year would sell out. But
Season.
so what, 70 something home games. Just so I bought tickets for one game and then kept looking and, there's the, you know, alternate sites, which I try not to, to use, so that's the issue, but only 3 games, so 1 in, Koshien, and then so in, Kurashiki, hosts 1 game, so I made it there, and then I made it to 1 game of the Climax Series, which is what we call our playoffs
Yep.
here,
Yep, yep.
which I tried in vain to get Japan Series tickets because we did make it to the finals this year, but that was, of course, an impossible task, so, yeah, only 3 games this year.
We were talking to another gentleman too who had done baseball tickets as far as how I was able to get tickets to games in the past. But he said, the rise of the bot is a real thing, and having, people purchase tickets,
Yeah.
for resale purposes, not just popularity too. I mean, for the Tigers and things, but kind of competing with that has made that even more difficult for people to be able to catch games and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. So definitely something. I mean, there've always been a popular team with a passionate following, but something's a bit suspicious. They're not that popular. So yeah, hopefully the situation and I know the ticket sellers are trying to do something about this, but obviously the bot and the savvy people are always one step ahead. So it's I mean, like what's happened with dynamic ticket pricing and all the nonsense in the US with how much you have to pay for tickets. So yeah, so hopefully things will improve. I mean, like a lot, the same. I don't know if we talked about this, but the same with sumo, which
Yeah.
I'm happy in a way because sumo was like in danger of going away. 12, 15 years ago. I mean, if 3 of the 4 tournaments, Basho, Tokyo, Nagoya, Osaka, you have to buy tickets the day they go on sale. Even with that, you might not get them. And again, there are the resellers, but I try not to mention or
Yeah. And you were able to make it out to see some in person last year or so.
So last year, the Osaka tournament, Basho, is every March. So yeah, I did manage to get to 2 days, which is funny because I would normally be content with 1 day, but with tickets, such a hard ticket, it makes you more anxious to go. So I did have some friends visiting. So I mean, I got 4 tickets 1 day, 6 tickets another day, and absolutely no problem, finding enough people to come with me. And just for the record, I did not resell those tickets. They paid face value, just so people know I'm not part of the problem.
That's right. No, right, definitely, I enjoyed my time, watching Sumo, and I'd love to be able to do it again. Last time my son was out in Japan, John, like, we did our trip together, and that was a wonderful 3 weeks, and then he went back by himself for a month and a half last year, and I was able
Great.
to go out for Thanksgiving and spend some time with him, and it was fabulous being able to do so, but I was able to catch a concert when I was in Japan, and I did 10 hours worth of Shinkansen to go from one end of Japan to the other to catch that concert. And to me, was 100% worth it. And I know last time we talked about it a little bit about the differences between concerts in Japan versus the US and how it can be, in some ways hard to enjoy when you go back home and have a similar, concert experience. But were you able to catch any shows, since we've talked last, John?
Yeah, so I had to, it's been a bit slow, but and the prices have gotten, the prices have gotten a bit out of control as well. But not this past year, but since we last talked, I was thinking of some shows and very lucky to. Are you familiar with Tedeschi Trucks Band?
Yes.
Okay, so they're a band yeah, they fortunately have a bit of a following in Japan, so they tend to come here every few years. So they came, I think, 2023, which is always just one of the best live bands out there. If people don't know them, definitely check them out. And I caught them back home this summer as well, which was a treat. And this past year, are you familiar with Rodrigo and Gabriela?
I've heard of them, but I've not heard music and things.
Yeah, so another again another band that's always had a bit of a following in Japan. So they're a Mexican man and woman couple who just intriguing story who started as a heavy metal band and then moved to Dublin and were busking acoustic on the streets, but now they do mostly acoustic so a bit of flamenco style, but just very powerful acoustic guitar and percussion. Check out. So those are. I do regret Cheap Trick was here this fall, and I'm a big classic rock fan, and it was a bit pricey for, but that would have been. I've used the term full circle a lot. I mean, like a lot of people my generation. Cheap Trick live at Budokan, one of my first albums. What in the world is Budokan? But so, and my friends said they sounded, quite good for their age, which you can't say of every band still out there trying to get fans to pay for the music. So I do regret missing that one. But a funny one coming up is I was, I'm a Deadhead, Fishhead jazz guy now, but I was a big metalhead in college. One of the big four of the thrash metal bands, Anthrax, will be back in April. And that's just a funny connection because Anthrax's current singer, Jolie Belladonna, real name Bellardini. Yeah, he's from my hometown of Oswego. Went to high school with my sister, so I don't know him personally, but I will probably attend that. He's been in and out of the band, but he is the current singer, so I'll probably attend that one just for nostalgic sake. Get back in touch with my old headbanging roots.
I know I was very fortunate for our Cheap Trick connection when Rick Nielsen ended up having all of his guitars, which he has a copious amount of.
Yeah,
We're at a museum in Rockford. So we went because my father and I and my son too are fans of Cheap Trick, and we're actually able to meet him in person
well,
because he happened to be at the museum that day. So that was a fun, happenstance and things like that. But I would definitely catch them in Japan too. I think everyone
yeah.
that's been in Japan for any length of time has some concerts that they regret missing. Mine is U2, John. U2 was
Okay,
playing.
okay,
I was in Tokyo, could have gone to the concert. It wasn't sold out, just did not, pull that trigger on that. But I am very happy. I saw a group called Shishimo, which is somebody I followed for more, going on, more than 8 years, but they've been around for more than 10. They're going to be retiring and moving on with their things. So I am incredibly thankful that I was able to see them in person. How I did. They
great,
had
great.
like a small venue show in Aomori, and it was literally less than 200 people that were in the venue, just a
Wow.
very small venue. And normally they play, the larger concerts and things. So, John, I would do a concert anytime,
Yeah, yeah.
but being able to catch in some of the venues would be wonderful as well, my friend. I know beyond your sumo, beyond your hiking, cycling, and different things, I know that you also love, as we said earlier, the physical book or by digital means too. Do you have any books and things that you've read that you'd like to share, my friend?
Yeah, definitely. So probably one of the best books I read last year, not only about Japan, but just overall, was a wonderful title, They Hang Me in Tokyo by Alan West, and the double meaning there is he's a artist, a Nihonga, painter, so but kind of I wish I'd known of him for my A Passion for Japan book, because not that I mean, he would have contributed, I don't know, he's had his own book to write, but just I mean, this just sums up, just great and I have very little interest or knowledge about art, but again, it's not the theme, it's just the story, so
Yeah.
incredible story to tell, and just the adversity he faced as people like, a foreigner, cannot do what you're doing. This is a Japanese art, and, not to give away the story, but just him, pretty much being told to leave a shop in Tokyo, trying to buy the special, kinds of paint he needed to do his art. And then, I will say there's a happy ending. I don't wanna spoiler I won't give that away, but, yeah, great book, Alan West, They Hang Me in Tokyo, and one I'm really looking forward to, which I just checked again, but not not being released until the end of this month, so would be again, a good post-holiday gift. Are you familiar with Hiroko Yoda?
Again, tip of my like, it seems to be itching things that are in my mind, John, but fill
Okay.
me in again, my friend.
Yeah, but so she's, published in the New Yorker, New York Times, maybe, several, but she has a wonderful book coming out called 8 Million Ways to Happiness, I believe is the word. So it looks into Japanese spirituality, um, which is just a very mysterious, misunderstood topic. So again, is Japan a religious country or not? But she really looks at the and visits a lot of the power spots I'm interested in, like the Kumano Kodo, and does different rituals. So very hands-on. She had access to all these amazing experiences, and I'm really looking forward. I'm actually going on the Kumano Kodo at the end of the month, so I really wish I could read this book along the way, but it'll be released at the very end of the year, I believe. But I mean, there's a lot of again, a lot of not that some of them can't pull it off, but a lot of non-Japanese authors who are writing these books about the kind of quote unquote, ancient secrets of Japan, and just people that don't really have the authority to, not that they don't appreciate Japan or hope this is true, but they're really not giving the full picture, and they maybe not haven't even lived in Japan. So I'm
Yes.
looking forward to Hiroko as Oyoda's book as a real counter to that, a more authentic look at an intriguing part of Japanese culture and history. So yeah, looking forward to that one.
I wish you much enjoyment, John, as you head off to get some time to yourself. It's wonderful. What are your goals for 2026 and beyond besides another Hanshin Tiger championship?
Oh, yeah, yeah, I'm kind of in rest mode now because once you finish a big project, you do need a little time off, but, it's hard to say. I think I mentioned last time, I really would like to see my A Passion for Japan book translated into Japanese, so if there's any translators out there, that's still I mean, especially now with, again, the rise of anti-immigration and the far right, I would, like more Japanese people to know these stories and see so many foreigners in Japan who are doing things the right way, and they're here
Yes.
because of their deep appreciation for this wonderful country and culture. So completely separate, but I'm toying with, again, music is one of my passions. So I'm toying with the idea of a edited volume about the role of music in our lives. So that's just one of these things that's been on my brain and on and off, but we'll maybe pursue it, but I'll keep you.
John, definitely have you on for that. I'm like, I think both of us have that appreciation for a lot of different things. I said, sales for my dad with the amount of times we moved growing up, and then, appreciation for music and just the outdoors in general. And then trying to promote as much as you can some amazing foreigners within Japan, what they're doing, not only for those that are out, in Japan, but those outside as well. And, really, it's unfortunate that a few people can hog up so much time on the news. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
on the news for
yeah,
things like that, when there is a lot of positiveness to go upon, on that. And I
absolutely.
think I think you're doing us a favor though, John, being there how you are and doing what you do. So thank you for that. And I, I used to, like I said, John, last we talked, I was going to have my dad read your book, and he is not a Japanophile. He is not a big person of Japan. He went there when he worked for Bridgestone back in the 80s. His love is more, Europe and South America, things like that. But even him, he loved it. Like he loved the whole
Wonderful.
thing,
Yeah.
from beginning to end. And he told me thank you for afterwards because it wouldn't have been something that he picked up if it wasn't for me giving. So, definitely, my friends, if you're listening to this, it is not just for people of Japan. There were a lot of, almost for me, it's not the same, John, but like when I was reading Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, when you can get into,
Classic.
yes, like you get into like that a connection with different people, even though they are short. Sometimes it's like even more powerful because you have such a limited space to say what you're saying. And some of that, was truly impacting. And like you said, a reason to read it from beginning to end because there were a lot of things that I didn't think would be as much of an interest to me as it ended up being. It is definitely there, John. And before we look to bring our time to an end because we're nearing that hour talk time. Is there anything else about your life, your writing, your books, anything else you want to share with listeners that we have not discussed to this point?
Yeah, there's one thing I haven't mentioned, which you might have seen, but I had the great honor this past April to be one of the speakers at the TEDx event held at Okayama University, which was actually the first TEDx event in the Chugoku region. And people, if aren't familiar with that, that would kind of encompass Hiroshima, Okayama, Shimane, Tottori prefectures, and also Shikoku's full region, going a bit beyond Chugoku. But so this was kind of based on the idea behind my book. So it's there on YouTube. So it's TEDx Okayama, and the talk is called "The Secret to Feeling at Home in Japan." And I will say that the secret isn't much of a secret, but I wish more people, hopefully more people will closely follow that. So that is up on YouTube. And again, I need to just give kudos to the a global discovery program who is newish about 10 years ago department at our school, which is made up about half Japanese and half international students. They were the ones who made this all happen. So just a very impressive, amazing amount of work that they did with, again, international students and Japanese students working together. And again, I was very honored to be invited as one of the speakers. Yeah, the secret to feeling at home in Japan is that TEDx talks. And I do share some people from the Passion for Japan book as well. So it's not just about sharing my story, but similar stories.
And if you could, John, shoot me a link for that, and I will include that in the notes as well. In addition to like your Instagram,
Yep.
the Amazon book link, your the Pekachukucha, your Google Scholarness, your everything that you have going on, John. We will include with that as well. So thank you, my friend, for setting aside time and being so flexible with me about trying to set up a time. I know John and I touched base again, and he was back in the US, was able to get the textbook to me, and I very much appreciate having that physical to look at for you. So thank you again for going out of your way to get that to me.
Yeah, and thank you, Michael. It was wonderful to talk again, and I was hoping it would be even happier that we'd be fresh on the heels of another Hanshin Tigers championship, but we certainly can't complain about what we did this year, and again, an exciting time with sumo too, with Aonishki, the Ukrainian wrestler, getting his first championship this month. So exciting times in sports and other things.
Thank you, John, so much though for joining me today. And we'll have to hop on again because I feel like we could talk about just your hiking, your cycling, your so many different things. The sumo, like you said, baseball could be our talks on their own. So thank you,
Absolutely.
John.
Thank you, Michael.
Well, on behalf of Lost Without Japan and the entire crew, I'd like to thank you for joining both of us today for this interview. We look forward to seeing you on board again for our next regularly scheduled episode as we continue our discussion on Japan, travel, culture, and your lost without moments. To everyone out there, oh, Ginky Day. Stay well, my friends.